The West Virginia Mountaineers have invaded SEC territory, taking one of the best young defensive coordinators in all of college football from a blue blood power in Oklahoma. Lots of layers to this story, guys. Let's unpeel them one layer at a time on this awesome episode of Locked On West Virginia.
You are Locked On West Virginia, your daily podcast on the West Virginia Mountaineers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up? Welcome back in, guys. My name is Mountaineer Paul. I am your host, and this is Locked On West Virginia. Thanks for joining me, guys. What an amazing day today has turned out to be. I had such a crappy evening last night, so I'm so glad that this has helped turn things around. Let me get over here to X really quick. I forgot to prepare that part so I can read the post from Pete Thamel, who is the best in the business. Absolutely. So this is obviously history. We got Pat McAfee with the champagne toast. But this is Pete Thamel, who is, if you don't know who that is, he is the breaking news guy in college football. And he said, sources, West Virginia is finalizing a 3-year deal to make Zac Alley the school's new defensive coordinator. He's been the DC at Oklahoma and worked for Rich Rodriguez as DC at Jacksonville State before. So a lot of people in the comments there are coping over this for sure. I'm going to try and find an article because I'm sure somebody has already got one prepared. So I'm going to read an article because it'll have some background info in it, and then we'll get going. Let's see. Zac Alley. All right. So the first one that pops up is SI. So I guess it'll be Skylar Callahan. Breaking. West Virginia set to hire Zac Alley as defensive coordinator. The Mountaineers have found their new leader of the defense. West Virginia's search for a defensive coordinator has come to an end. Rich Rodriguez is set to bring on Zac Alley as the Mountaineers' new leader on the defensive side of the ball, according to Pete Thamel of ESPN. Alley, who is 30 years old, is the co-defensive coordinator and linebackers coach at Oklahoma. Before reuniting with Brent Venables and Norman, Alley spent 2 years as the coordinator on Rich Rod's staff at Jacksonville State. The two almost also spent the 21 season together on Terry Bowden's staff at Louisiana Monroe, where he was the youngest coordinator, which was 27 at the time at the FBS level. In his 2 years at Jack State, Alley's unit finished 33rd in scoring defense and 43rd in total defense. The Gamecocks were stout against the run, allowing just 2.8 yards per carry while causing a ton of havoc by creating turnovers, 16 interceptions, and a 13th-place finish nationally in sacks per game at 2.9. That success has carried over in his new post at Oklahoma in his first year on the job. The Sooners have seen drastic improvements in 4 key defensive statistical categories, as shown below. Total defense went from 2023 60th at 389 yards a game, almost 50 less yards a game, which ranks them top 20 this year at 324. From pass defense, they went from 100th to 63rd. From rush defense, they went from 42nd to 11th. And from scoring defense, they went from 23rd to 31st, or from 41st to 31st. He does run a lot of odd stat guys. So, I think it's going to be interesting to see what they do at West Virginia. They may go 4. And Skylar notes that here. He says, Alley ran a lot of odd stack at Jacksonville State, but mixed in a good dose of 4-man configurations to keep offenses off balance. During his 1 year at Oklahoma, he adapted to the Venables 4-2-5 scheme, but he did implement some 3-man looks, which helped the Sooners' defense considerably. He's a perfect fit for what Rich Rod wants to do, and his defensive play caller is someone who is aggressive and prioritizes creating takeaways. On third downs, he tends to put a lot of faith in the secondary and bring a lot of pressure to overwhelm the offensive line and force the quarterback to rush his progressions. Okay, so this is not a clickbait. He's hired, according to Pete Thamel. This is going to be a 3-year deal, and there's a lot to unpack here. So I think, my thoughts on this were coming into today. If it gets past today, I was going to make an assumption that it was going to be Jeremiah Johnson because the timeline just isn't adding up at that point. At that point, there's no reason not to make this announcement today. Literally none. Oklahoma played their bowl game yesterday. You had time to say your goodbyes. If there was some negotiating to do, you had time to do that. And so I was starting to think, well, maybe this isn't going to happen because it would have been announced by now, right? The portal's only open a few more days. So you have to start thinking for West Virginia and against Oklahoma at some point. I get it. Look, this is a guy that, for lack of better terms, loves Brent Venables, right? He does. He openly says he's like a second father. But at the same time, I'm sure he has an affection for Rich Rod and hopefully West Virginia now. And so, yeah, we had to make sure we had time left for them to make some moves. And look, guys, I have talked to multiple kids in the portal. Getting Zac Alley is going to make a huge difference for our defense. Trust me when I say we're going to be getting some commits in the next couple of days. All you have to do is say, look, guys, we got an SEC defensive coordinator here now, one of the youngest in the country, really personable guy. And he does a lot of the things that Rich Rod likes to do from an aggression standpoint. So if he runs odd stack, I don't care because this guy is going to bring you the talent to run it. In the past, we ran odd stack with really tough players that were physical and had that hard edge. And I think this time around, we're going to get those same kind of players, but we're going to get an extra layer of talent above that, so some more athleticism. And I do believe this defense will turn around. We'll probably see it jump 50, 60 spots this year, maybe more. We'll see. Depends on how much talent they bring in. Obviously, they've lost some. I got to get some dew in me. Whoa. So I'm excited about this. And I've been telling you guys for, I don't know, probably a week or so now that there's a chance that we get Jeremiah Johnson along with this. I have no inside knowledge to that happening. I still believe it's a possibility based on conversations I had about a week ago. So in my opinion, I think it's still a great possibility that Jeremiah Johnson, who is in his own right one of the young defensive coordinators in college football, could come on as a positional coach. I don't know where, but he, if you put those two together, man, you're talking about some serious mind and brain power behind a defense. This is exactly why you give Rich Rod, $7.5 million for staff and coaching, right? Because you go out and you make hires. Rich Rod promised us. What did he say day one? He said, we've got the resources to go get a good defensive coordinator, and we're going to do that. And not only did he swing and connect, he swung and connect with their first choice. There's literally no choice for Rich Rod but this guy. This is the guy. This is the pie in the sky. Like, this was truly not really supposed to happen. How often does an Oklahoma anything step down to anywhere? Like, maybe they go – if somebody goes to Alabama from Oklahoma, generally you can consider that a lateral move in coaching. The head coach at Oklahoma and the head coach at Alabama are almost the same, right? So, I mean, look, this is a huge, huge, huge get for us, guys. And it's going to lead to some really I'm really excited about the future of our program now. We've obviously invested here, and it's so great to see Rich Rod getting this support the second go around. And look, who knows what they promised Zac Alley? Like I said, he's 30 years old. He's an up-and-coming star. And I just have to say, like, maybe they give him the head coaching waiting possibility here. I mean, look, if I wanted, that's what I would have told him. Look, hey, like, I know what you're all about. You can come here for 3 years and I'll show them what you're all about. After this 3-year contract is up, if you still haven't got a job somewhere else by then, let's see if we can talk Rim Baker or whoever's here at the time into giving you that head coaching waiting title. If everybody's kind of, sold on you by then. Somebody in the comments wants to know what's so special about Zac Alley. Tanon, he was the defensive coordinator at Oklahoma at 30 years old. You know what I mean? You don't get that gig. Calling the plays. He was the play caller for them. So you don't get that. Uh-oh, my computer's about to die here. Sorry about that. I guess my computer was unplugged. So hopefully it doesn't die on me here, guys. That would be quite horrible here. But anyway, so what's so special about Zac Alley is he's the defensive coordinator at Oklahoma at a very super young age, an age where most guys are just getting started. And not only that, he's had extreme success. If I just noted it for you in Scholar's article, but I can do it again. So just this past season, he bumped up 40 spots in total defense for Oklahoma, 27 spots in pass defense. Looks like 32 spots or 31 spots in rush defense and 10 spots in overall scoring defense in 1 year. So he did that in multiple spots. He was Rich Rod's defensive coordinator at Jacksonville State at the age of 27, guys, right? Whenever he was at ULM, he was 27 years old, guys. Like, it's really impressive. It just is. So this is a guy that not only he's changed defenses over, he does it fast. And that's what we need here. We need a guy that can come in and really get this train going down the tracks fast, because Rich Rod is on, I don't want to say limited time, but certainly he doesn't have all day to get this thing going, right? We've got to make moves. We've got to make them now. Up next on Locked On West Virginia, will Jeremiah Johnson come along with Zac Alley? What are the odds we can land 2 defensive coordinators for this squad? Stick around, guys. This is Locked On West Virginia. And this episode of Locked On West Virginia is going to be brought to you by, of course, Rocket Money, guys. Did Rocket Money help you find any subscriptions you forgot about or that you were paying for twice? Well, it definitely happened to me, and I had a few subscriptions I didn't even realize I was still paying for. Rocket Money made it easy to track them down. It's like having a personal assistant for your finances. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings, because it brings everything together in one place, whether it's subscriptions, your spending habits, or even the goals you want to hit next year. Rocket Money has 5 million users, guys, and has saved a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when using all of its premium features. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions. Reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/lockedon today. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedon. And we are back here on Locked On West Virginia. So, salary hasn't been announced just yet for this as we talk. Let's see. That I know of, but I would imagine it's definitely going to be in that. I would say it would have to be in that 1.3 to 1.8 range. I would say in that range. I mean, to get a guy to leave Oklahoma where he was making $900,000 next year, you had to do this, right? You had to sweeten the pot, because look, just keeping it completely objective. Obviously, I'm a West Virginia homer, so you'd have to pay me a lot to get me to leave there. I probably would be almost no amount. But let's say I'm just being objective, which is fine to be sometimes. If you're in Oklahoma and you don't have any affinity for Oklahoma, like personally or emotionally, you're going to have to give me a substantial amount more to step down to like the Big 12 or something right now. The way college football is going, the difficulty there is trying to get players to come to schools over SEC schools and Big Ten schools right now. High-level kids walk into the SEC programs right now, even like Mississippi State, places like that. So certainly I think you look at this situation, and West Virginia had to pull out all the stops to get a guy like Zac Alley. And who knows exactly what that is, but I'm going to say probably between 1.3 to 1.8, somewhere in that range. So, that probably puts him at the top of the Big 12 for coordinators, right there at the top. And you're probably talking, I don't know, top 50-ish in the nation. There's a lot of guys that make over $1 million. So it's not like it's unheard of or anything like that. It happens in like a lot of schools where, you know, where they're big names and all that kind of stuff. So this is certainly going to be a well-paid guy. So, and I think another bell and whistle that you give a guy like Zac Alley is maybe Jeremiah Johnson. You say, hey, look, not only we're going to bring Jeremiah Johnson in, and I don't know this is going to happen, but I'm just saying this is possibly what they say. Like, you're not going to be alone here. We're going to bring a guy who just coached the defense at Louisiana Tech to an incredible top 30 finish in defense. And we're going to put him on your staff. Not only we're going to do that, but we're going to bring Jeff Castile in, one of the greatest defensive coordinators in WVU football history. He's going to be on your staff, and he's going to be helping you get this defense together. So this is going to be one of the better staffed defensive staffs in the country, definitely the Big 12. And you look at Mr. Green, who's going to be on the defensive line. I imagine Zac Alley will probably take care of linebackers. Then you look at like maybe Jeremiah Johnson and the guy that came to him. There's a few options, obviously, for the secondary. Possibly it could be a Johnson. It could be somebody totally different. I would prefer certain other coaches, obviously, that are in my phone that I know. But, at the end of the day, I don't have any say or anything like that on who those guys might be. But, look, I'm a big fan of certain guys, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. At the end of the day, you have to root for certain guys, and Jamil Adai just happens to be a guy I think would be great for this job. He's an elite recruiter. He's in the NFL. He knows exactly what it takes to get to that level, and he knows how to coach guys that way. I mean, look, he's coached players, at all levels, of all molds, and he's even got guys from West Virginia, Tyke Smith and other guys like that have done really well under him, Carl Joseph. So, it's exciting. I'm all jacked up on Mountain Dew, pal. So let me know how you guys feel in the chat, guys. Do you agree with the hire? Are you excited about the hire? Is it a home run? Is it a wet napkin? What do you think it is? I would love to know. Drop a comment down there. Let me know how you feel. Hit that subscribe button while you're here. We got 800 deep, which is great. Hit that subscribe button. Drop a like on the video, and also share the video out for me, guys, if you can. It will make a lot of difference to me personally if you could help me grow. That's all I'm asking here. To the Oklahoma faithful who have invaded my comments over the last week, ha, 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 ha. Sorry, I had to do it. You guys have told me how wrong I was, even though I was just reporting what was out there over the last week. Like, you guys invaded me over the last week, like seriously, and told me how dumb I was and how much of a step down we are and all this stuff. So Tudnod obviously is an Oklahoma fan. He said we struck out. He doesn't see the apparent just incredible hire this is. So listen, everybody's not going to agree on it for sure. But when this defense is playing lights out next year, I want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. I'll definitely remember a name like Tudnod. So, this is going to be great. So, I just want to see who the positional coaches are now for this defense, guys. And I want to see, like I said, I've spoke to some guys in the portal, some big names, guys that we were on the fringe of getting. But I know 5 guys that we're waiting to see who the defensive coordinator was and really wanted it to be Zac Alley, right? I had a West Virginia player tell me, well, I just tell you who it was. Xavier Bosley told me that Zac Alley's defense is the hardest defense he's ever gone against. He said he's never gone against a harder to figure out defense because of all the late movement. It's got tons and tons of late movement, right? It's one of those defenses that changes the look right before the snap. So there is confusion amongst the quarterback and especially the offensive line, which has to communicate, obviously, at the snap. You got to know where everybody's going to possibly go or be. And you have signals for that, right? And in this situation, what Mr. Alley likes to do is he changes that picture on you. And like it's all about quarterbacks, and especially in college, quarterbacks don't play with the snap. They don't really play with the snap count very much. It's rare. In the NFL, you see it's an art. Aaron Rodgers and guys like that will use the snap count to inflict different kinds of penalties on the opponents and stuff like that. So, so he's good for that too. Up next on Locked On West Virginia, guys, let's put a bow on this episode and talk expectations. Stick around for that. This is Locked On West Virginia. And this episode of Locked On West Virginia is going to be brought to you by FanDuel, guys. The NFL playoffs are almost here, but it's not too late to get on regular season action with FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Because right now, new customers can finish the season strong with $250 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. FanDuel has so many ways for you to pick up the dub, guys. And I love betting on which players will score a touchdown and how many points each player will score. It's super thrilling. I love doing it. Not only can you bet on who will win the game, but you can FanDuel his bets for who will score, how many points each team will score, and more. Visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your chance at $250 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the National Football League. I like how I say league. I don't know where I got that from. So I see a few people commenting certain things, and I'll address those in succession really quick. So I've seen people say that Oklahoma's defense was an elite this year. Well, this is he hasn't been there long, guys. I think this was his first year, right? So what do you want a guy to do in his first year anywhere, right? So I don't know. To me, it's like silly, really. I don't think that's a very good argument at all. Then I've seen somebody say that Navy did something to him. They gave up 21 points to Navy. Sure. We'll take that at West Virginia. If you can give up 20, 21 a game, we'll win a lot of games here. Oklahoma scored 20 points, right? And they had several 3-and-outs, guys. So they gave the ball to Navy like 100 times. Like they had a bunch of plays. You're just not going to win like that. And the offense did not help the defense. The defense played well enough to win that game for Oklahoma yesterday. So to say that Navy had listen, if you want to knee-jerk react to one game, go right ahead. I'll go ahead. I will mark it down and bookmark it, and we can come back and revisit it. So because I think, this is the guy that got the job at Oklahoma at 30. If you think a guy like that sucks, I don't know what else to tell you. I'd love to see where your life is if that sucks. Because, look, Navy scored 21 points, right? They were held to 318 total yards, 92 passing yards, 226 rushing yards, which is a team that's all they do. That'd be like holding a team to 90 or to 226 passing yards in another, against another team. They were 4 for 13 on third downs. They only had 11 first downs, 53 total plays to 84 from Oklahoma. But Oklahoma had 1 turnover and 7 penalties. They lost the time of possession by only not even 1 minute, like 20 seconds. So why did Oklahoma win this game? Well, it's obviously red zone. They didn't score. They had more yards. They had more plays. They had the ball just almost as long. Oklahoma scored 14 points in the first quarter and 6 in the fourth. And Navy scored 1 touchdown in the second, third, and fourth quarter. It's just crazy, man. Like, it really is. I don't think that's a bad defensive performance personally. It's not incredible. No. And certainly Zac Alley, not a perfect coordinator. but he complements exactly what Rich Rod wants to do, and that's what's important here. It is. That's what's important. If Rich Rod is happy with it, I'm happy with it. Rich Rod is taking two quarterbacks that I know of, just as kind of like just the way his mind works blows me away, and turned one of them into one of the most sought after wide receivers in the transfer portal this year in Cam Vaughn. That guy was a quarterback in high school. Then he took another guy who was a defensive back in high school, turned him into a quarterback, one of the greatest of all time, named Pat White. He does things that are unconventional, and he does them well. That's what makes him who he is. And I think that's why Rich Rod's going to win again at West Virginia, because we are unconventional. We are not normal. We have to win differently. And if hiring a 30-year-old defensive coordinator is the different way that we win, I'm all about it. If converting positionless players into positions that benefit them and their talent, I'm all about it. If coaching with a hard edge in a soft edge era wins us more games, I'm all about it. And if Rich Rod bringing in another defensive coordinator to join Zac Alley to lead us into the playoffs, I'm all freaking about it. I am extremely happy about this. Just am. I think it's going to be great. And then you just don't get to where he's at without being good. So, once again, there's idiocy in the chat. So, outside of Oklahoma, Zac Alley had a couple top 40 defenses at Jacksonville State. He also had a great defense at ULM, and he's been successful everywhere he's been in 3 stops, whether it was ULM, whether it was Jack State, now Oklahoma. So he's successful across 3 different spots. You know why he's only in a place for a year or two? Because he gets hired away because he's really good. That's why. It's not like he's getting fired and getting picked up. He's moving up levels fast. He's on the fast track to be a head coach. So if your only criticism to a guy is that his track record isn't very big, but he's already at Oklahoma, okay, let me see where your life was at 30. You know what I'm saying? So not everybody's going to agree on it. I get that. It's just, of course somebody would try to come in here and rain on this parade like we shouldn't be excited about it. We have everything out in front of us, guys. Listen, this offseason hasn't been perfect for us. Some would say we didn't get our first choice in Kodalnicki. I think Rich Rod was the right choice. May not have been the first choice, but I think he's the right choice because of the McAfee and the Kendrick and just the way he does things unconventionally for us. And then the portal hasn't gone to plan at all. That's been really bad, actually. I would say it's probably been, if I had to put a grade on it, I would say the higher I'll give an A. I'll say the portal, I'll give a D so far. And the staff so far, before Alley, was it about a C plus, and now it's an A because I imagine the offensive coordinator is probably going to be somebody decent. His son Rhett Rodriguez is probably going to coach the quarterbacks, so that's not going to be looked at as a great hire, although he could end up being a great coach. And I think if you bring on a Jeremiah Johnson or whoever comes in next, I keep saying him, I don't know for sure that he's going to be the guy, but it looks like it could be him next. But I'm really starting to look at this West Virginia, staff especially, and saying, okay, there's a lot of really good pieces. This is outshining what we had before, like for sure. William Green and Andrew Jackson, that's a wash. I'll give you that. Matt Moore, I'll give the edge over on your O-line coach, but not by a large margin at all. It's like, let's say Matt Moore is a B plus. This guy's a B, right? Or something like that at O-line. I save the A's for like the Tricketts and the Crooks. Although I heard Ron Crook was wanting the job, which blew me away. That would have been a hell of a hire, but Rich Rod must not know him well or something like that. So Bick Dale's a great hire, though, or a good hire anyway. And then we'll see where we go with OC and then safeties, obviously, and who else we bring on the defensive side. But this has all been solid. But, man, the Alley hire here, it's right up there with Rich Rod for me. It really is. I didn't think this was going to happen. Like, I really thought there was going to be something fall through in the end, And then we would get Jeremiah Johnson, and I was okay with that. I would have been excited about that. I would have come on here with energy and talked about that, and I wouldn't have put it down because he's got a lot of, he has 10 years at Northern Iowa, which if you can coach ball, you can coach ball. I was on here the other day. I just brought up a bunch of people. Rich Rod was at Glenville State. You can look at Nick Saban, even like guys like Nick Saban. Almost every good coach that's ever coached has coached at the lower level, like Lance Leopold, Wisconsin Whitewater, right? Like there's guys that coach at those levels that end up being great. So it's not a determinant of how somebody's going to be. And that's why I look at these situations like, if somebody can coach ball, they can coach ball. Jeremiah Johnson was at Northern Iowa for like 10 or 11 years, and they had elite defenses. They won 4 rings, like the 4 championships while they were there. So, and now he's moved on to the FBS, and in 2 seasons in the FBS, or Division I, anyway, Jeremiah Johnson has taken Kent State in 1 year from the 100s down to the top 30. And then the very next year, he changes jobs, goes to Louisiana Tech, and they were in the 100s in rank, and they were top 30. So, like I said, he would have been an incredible hire, but he's not the splash that Alley is. He doesn't have the relationship with Rodriguez that Alley does, because Rodriguez has given Alley some of his first big jobs. And he doesn't have the pull that Alley's going to have in the portal, in my opinion. I think you might see some Oklahoma guys come along. There's a guy that used to be at Washington that entered the portal today that transferred from Oklahoma. That's a guy that we need to be looking at. Like anybody attached to Oklahoma, I would at least have a look at. Anybody they were recruiting, or anybody's got an Oklahoma offer on defense, I would be looking at. And there's a lot of layers to this onion, like I said. There really, truly is. So overall, big picture take, this is an A++ hire, possibly one of the better defensive coordinators in the league, if not the best. And that's not just because we got him. This is an Oklahoma DC that they wanted to keep and fought to keep. Oklahoma. So there's nothing wrong with it, guys. We smashed this out of the park. Rich Rod did what he said he was going to do and got a great defensive hire, and we're here for it. If you want to stay here for it and all the updates regarding this and future hires, Locked On West Virginia is your spot for that. Don't forget to subscribe, guys. We're 1,000 deep now, and I appreciate you for being here. Let's get bigger, guys. Let's grow this thing and show some of the larger shows on the network that we can compete, which I'm already doing, like more than competing. But I want to stay here, right? Like this coaching search and stuff has been great. It's growing me. But I want to stay here. I don't want to move back down to 100 people watching, if I don't have to. And if you guys like the content, please subscribe if you're watching. I ask you to do that for Christmas and New Year's. If you could just hit subscribe. If you're not subscribed, it would mean a whole lot to me. If you could hit the like button while you're here, that would mean a lot. And then share this thing out. Either copy and paste the StreamYard link up top in your www bar, or hit share and copy and paste that. Other than that, guys, not a whole lot else to talk about. Obviously, like I said, we brought on Castile. This will continually get more updates. I'll be watching portal guys, and I'll be watching coaches, assistant coaches to come with Alley. And I'll update you guys. If it happens tonight, I'll be back. So just be watching. If there's any major news, I'll be on here to talk about it, to update you, because I'm here for you, just like you're here for me. Until then, guys, thank you for joining. Thanks for making Locked On West Virginia your first listen. If I can implore you to make a second listen, guys, obviously Locked On Big 12 with Drake Toll is the way you should go. He leads the country in Big 12 content. He really does. And he pulls no punches when it comes to covering the Big 12. So I suggest going to Drake Toll for that second listen. Until then, guys, this is Mountaineer Paul signing off. This episode's over, and I am out.